Welcome to Return on Insights, the show where candid conversations with bold founders and leaders spark actionable insights for your business. I'm David Lindover.
And I'm Erin Abatangelo. Each week, we pull back the curtain with leaders who are scaling teams and shaping the future, sharing the insights that create impact far beyond the bottom line.
Discover how high-performing companies build enduring cultures, inspire teams to think bigger, and turn vision into action. If you see storytelling as your strategic advantage, you're in the right place. Welcome to Return on Insights podcast. My name is David Lindover, and I'll be your host today. Today, we're excited to welcome Stephanie So. She's founder and CEO of Geeq. Steph's a visionary in blockchain technology, driving innovation with Geeq's unique multi-blockchain platform. Her work addresses major challenges of trust and security in digital systems through the groundbreaking Proof of Honesty protocol. In this conversation with Stephanie, she's going to share insights on how blockchain can empower economic autonomy and transform industries in our rapidly evolving digital economy. So let's dive in, Stephanie. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, David. Glad to be here.
So first question, how did your academic background in economics and public health shape your vision for Geeq's blockchain platform?
This is key to my motivation, I think, and one of the reasons we're different. You're right. I came from economics, and I came from a graduate school that was very convinced that the way we should study economics is that markets could solve everything, and that markets were efficient. If there was $5 on the ground, you shouldn't stop to pick it up because somebody else had already picked it up. This is kind of Milton Friedman kind of line of thought. And I went through all of graduate school saying, this isn't right. Markets are not efficient, and we can't expect markets as they are to solve things. Although the thing I took away from that was that incentives are very powerful to understand. It's just that those weren't being directed correctly. So the health part of my background was, again, looking for places where markets broke. And one of the things that they didn't take into account was the time that it takes for people with poor health or chronic diseases or disabilities, which I got very interested in, to make it to the market. And so all of the models that say people should get up off their couch and go to work, and things will take care of themselves were wrong. They were strongly wrong. And I think that this technology can shortcut a lot of the problems that people really have.
Okay. So what are the key challenges in trust and verification that you and Geeq aim to solve with your multi-blockchain approach?
Well, I go back to mental health. The trust problem that we have today has been breaking over decades. I'm old enough that I used to remember papers of record. You could look up an encyclopedia, or you could look up today's New York Times and Wall Street Journal, and that's what happened. And we used to trust those parties, right? We used to trust, not quite Walter Cronkite time, but that whoever was on the news to deliver what had been fact-checked. And then from there, we moved to computer files. We trusted that they protected all kinds of interesting data. And from there, a lot has been said about social media and how news is distributed. And it's very concerning because I think the sources behind what is disseminated the idea of fact-checking has gotten lost. And so I personally haven't trusted anything I've read for a long time. And that is a problem that's endemic that I think blockchain, if used properly, can start replacing these sources of news by making sure that we capture on-chain the data and the source that it came from. And I think this is an existential problem. If we don't have a way to think about sources and data together in an unbreakable way, we're really in a lot of trouble, because where else would we get this from?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with journalists my whole life in content development, and goes without saying that the source is the most important piece, right? You have to have 100% trust in your source to be basing your content on it. So,
And I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'd love to get to reach some of these people who really care about the facts and stories that are backed up by careful research, because I hear them asking, how are we going to reach the population? They don't know that this technology exists. This is the technology they're looking for. And I'd love to help them.
Okay. Well, this podcast is going to provide you the avenue to communicate with them, which is great. So, and this naturally goes into, the question, my next question, which is, what is Geeq's proof of honesty? And how does it keep the blockchain safer than others? And, a simple, easy to understand explanation would be preferred.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me that, David. So I should start with what blockchain is and how it is typically assumed to be secure. Blockchain is a way to think about data or transactions. Most people think of crypto, financial transactions, where they want to send some crypto from one account to another. And it's meant to capture these things in a sequence. So block after block makes a chain. The problem is that because the most famous cases were developed for finance, the incentives were to not worry about getting that order correctly, one after another, but instead to leave some leeway where people could change the order to take advantage of arbitrage. And that works great in crypto for certain people who know how to play that game, right? If they could buy low and sell high before somebody else, that's wonderful for them, but it's terrible for data. Because for data, we want to know things happened in the order that they happened. So what we learned as we looked at blockchains is that the incentives were wrong. The incentives of the blockchain, what's called consensus, were to reward the people who could put things in the fastest to their own advantage. And they were not taking into account the fact that other people might want them in order. Okay. And so we get what we incentivize. And all we've gotten really is take up in the crypto space. It's not good for data. So proof of honesty says we have to eliminate all the incentives to distort the order of facts. Right? We need first in, first out technology of data tied to the source. And consensus means agreement. It's a very old concept in computing. And so the blockchains that run consensus are agreeing that something is right. A majority can vote that something is right, even if it's not. Right? They just say it's the right order, and you have to take that as fact. Did that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, good. So we prohibit that. We do it by being very careful about the network. We do it by not allowing people to sort of cheat, look at what somebody else says and says, oh, okay, I'll agree with that one because that one will get me paid. If I agree with the majority, I'll get paid. Geeq prohibits that.
Okay.
And so as a result, the majority cannot override a minority that is doing their work correctly to put things first in, first out.
Got it.
Oops.
So So how do you balance the need for high security with ease of adoption? I'm thinking in the enterprise space right now. So, in big businesses, this needs to be, easy, easy to understand, hopefully easy to execute. Um, so how are you balancing that need for high security with the ease of adoption for enterprises?
Well, we talked a little bit about this before the show, David, right? The Geek is a brand new way of thinking about this technology and solving a verification issue, and we're pre-revenue right now. So the issue of adoption is one of the reasons why we've organized the back end of our blockchain to be compatible with database tools, because we're constructing a database in a new kind of way.
Right.
So that there are API calls for your viewers. You reach the blockchain through apps and just put an additional button or two that says, do you want to send this to the blockchain, this data? And then the blockchain takes that in order and preserves that order. And then it's read only after that.
Right.
So you pull back the data from this verified source through an API, and you can do your analysis from there. So in that sense, we had to go back and look at all the things that were successful in the .com and SaaS worlds and say, in order for this to be adopted, we know we have to make it that easy to give people what they want.
Understood.
Yeah.
So in which industries have you seen or do you expect to see the most promising early adoption of the technology?
The industries that have the most to lose by bad data or by getting corrupted data. So we've talked to finance. And let me back up a little bit about why the security part is so important. The security part is that right now, enterprises are starting to lose the battle of what is the normal costs of business. So if you were an online enterprise, fraud, right, or chargebacks would be a cost of business, and sort of you could do the best you can, and that was tolerable. But now with AI, it's so easy to commit fraud. There's fraud as a service. These things for sale now that are getting cheaper and cheaper. So enterprises are getting hit more, as you know, on fraud, on spoofing, on sending people to websites that look like they are their websites and they're fake. And that entire category is what I consider security. That's threatening the security of the enterprise business and of their customers. So if you do this through blockchain, Geeq is the only one who has developed this. We make it very secure for you to connect with your customer. And what I like to say there is a click is not a customer. It used to be you could draw people to your site and you could count on your customers to click and they'd go right to you. But now there's so many men in the middle attacks from people coming in and taking your account, or again, diverting people, pretending they're your help desk, right? That a click is not a customer anymore. You don't know if you're responding to a bot. If you're an enterprise, you don't know if you're wasting resources on trying to sell to bots who are trying to destroy your business. And if you're a customer, you don't know that you're talking to the enterprise. So these require a new infrastructure, and that's what we provide. So anytime that you have something to lose by spending a lot of resources on chargebacks, that's where you can use us.
Very interesting.
I think so.
What potential impacts do you foresee? And you sort of touched on this from the growing intersection of AI and blockchain on data security. And I'm almost afraid to ask the question, but give me the short, honest answer.
The short, honest answer, and I'm sure, is that AI's returns aren't measurable right now. We're putting as a society billions of dollars of investment into AI, and enterprises many have been eager to adopt or let their workers adopt or fire their workers in favor of AI in hopes that they will get more efficiency and better output. You have to look at it from both sides. If you're an economist, it's on the one hand, on the other hand, right? And the other hand is that there are cybersecurity risks, and they're immense, because we're letting AI agents and AI processes take over processes that we knew were monitored before. And so the speed at which AI adoption is able to insert malware without sufficient oversight is astonishing. So I'm very concerned that the adoption is going thinking only about the benefits and not about the costs.
Right.
And if you have what Geeq has developed, which is make sure those actions are verified and on chain. So you take a black box of AI and then you put that data in a place where you can see it. That's the match that I want to make.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a scary proposition. How do you envision, final question, how do you envision blockchain enabling economic autonomy in underserved or underprivileged communities? Going back to your vision earlier.
Well, I think we've been through decades of technology development that has been distributed only toward the people who understand how it works. And I see that in the way the platforms have arisen. I like to say that the internet was made for moving data from place to place, but the user doesn't know what happens in the background. It's the platforms who kept all that knowledge to themselves, right? We don't get any insight in where our data went or who is using it. It's the 4 W's: who, what, when, and where. We don't know that, but the platforms do. And since we don't know that, we're at a real information disadvantage. And the person who has the information can always do better at controlling the price that they set. It's classic price discrimination, right? Well, if you don't understand what's going on, you're going to get charged a higher price if you are trying to be in that market. A classic example is credit card interest rates. Credit card companies have offered terrible terms to the people who need it the most and who are the least financially educated. Why? Because they don't know any better. Because it's not revealed. So our blockchain is very neutral. It takes things, it puts them on chain, it treats everyone the same, in the same order. There's no privilege in getting your data in first or pulling it back. Everybody who has permission to pull it back can see the same thing. And that's a big change. Because now if you don't know the technology, or if the other kinds of technology, or if you're sitting at home and you didn't have time to go to school to learn the 10 hottest ways to, put technology in your life right now, what you can do is you can go and look up the blockchain and see, well, at least I'm not going to get fooled this time. And I think that's really important. I think it hasn't been available to people with low education or limited opportunities, or, I worry about people with mobility issues, right? Suddenly they have as much access to the data as anybody else.
That's a positive thought. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate your thoughtful conversation today. I learned a thing or two. I'm sure the people who watch this podcast will. And hopefully some people will reach out to you with some questions if they're left wanting after this podcast. I appreciate your time today, Stephanie. I hope to speak to you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure.